So I have shared my PPT. It's visible to everyone.
Yes, sir. Is
Okay,
it
fine.
vis-
Okay, thank you, thank you. So this is what we were discussing in the last class to how to extend our the MIPS pipeline to handle multi-cycle operations. So here we'll assume that to handle multi-cycle operations, that means there are certain operations which take a more number of clock cycle. Look at in our integer pipeline, we have discussed that the execution stage for each and every instructions takes only a single clock cycle. But we are talking of even floating point operations where there are some operations which will take a multiple number of clock cycle. Like say all floating point operation usually take a multiple number of the clock cycle. So we'll assume that there are four separate functional units. That there is a integer unit, and this integer unit is performs most of the integer operations like load, store, integer ALU operations, and integer branch. So it's specifically designed. So it's specific. It is units are specifically designed to handle certain operations. Then we have a multiplier which can handle both the floating point multiplier and integer multiplier. Then we had a floating point adder. It handles all the floating point addition, floating point subtraction, and any and the conversions that takes place. Then we had a divider where the it performs the floating point division as well as the integer division. Now, now assume that the execution stage. So what we have looked at the functional units, and these functional units are present in the execution stage of our pipeline. And we'll assume that these functional units are not pipeline. So if these functional units are not pipeline, then you cannot issue an instruction to the functional unit if that functional unit is already executing some other instruction. So the instruction is issued to the functional unit only when it is free. Now again, what is an instruction is said to be issued when it moves from the instruction decode stage to the execution stage. When you move it, then we say the instruction issued, and once the instruction is issued, the instruction will complete its execution. So if a hazard takes place, then we can detect at the instruction decode stage and we can stall the execution of the instruction. And if an instruction cannot proceed to the execution stage, that means when an instruction cannot proceed to the execution stage, if the functional unit is not available, and the instruction cannot, the functional unit is not available because there is some other instruction is already executing in that functional unit, and until that instruction completes its execution, the functional unit will not be free and no instruction will be issued to that the functional unit. So if an instruction cannot proceed to the execution stage, that means if you are not able to issue the instruction, then the entire pipeline behind that instruction will be stalled. So that particular the instruction which cannot be issued to the functional unit, the instruction which cannot be issued, as well as all instruction behind this particular instruction, all instruction will be the stall. So this was the structure of the pipeline. And if you look at the if you look at the pipeline structure, then if you look at the pipeline structure, if you look at all this, the execution unit, uh, we had the integer unit, then we had the multiplier, we had an adder. This a look at the integer unit. It performs all integer operation, integer addition, subtraction. There is a multiplier which perform integer and floating point multiplier, and there is a floating point adder. It performs floating point addition, floating point subtraction, and conversion. And there is a divisor which performs the floating point integer floating point division or the integer division. Now, because only one instruction issued on every clock cycle, an instruction go through the standard pipeline for integer operations. Look at for all integer operations, the this takes If you look at the functional units, some functional units takes multiple number of the clock cycle, so they are shown by a recycle mechanism. This shows a recycle here, so it takes the multiplier take a multiple number of clock cycle, and we have not it is not mentioned how many clock cycle is going to take, but simply says it takes a multiple number of clock cycle. The floating point addition also takes a multiple number of clock cycle, and the division is also going to take a multiple number of the clock cycle. Now if you look at the integer takes only one clock cycle. So integer takes one clock cycle. So at every clock cycle, if, if it is integer operation, the execution completes at every clock cycle. Now in this case, if if you have instructions, let's say if the instruction in the instruction decode stage is a floating point multiplier or integer multiplier, and there is the multiplier unit is already busy executing some other instruction, so it takes a multiple number of clock cycle. So this instruction cannot be issued. Because this instruction cannot be issued to the floating point multiplier, then all this instruction behind this, there is another instruction after this particular stall instruction. Those instruction also stall. Even if suppose this is a multiplier instruction, let's assume this is a multiplier instruction and this is a integer addition operation. Let's say this is a integer addition operation. Now let's look at the functional unit for add. The functional unit required is this integer unit, but the integer unit is not free. Sorry, the integer unit is free, but it cannot be issued to the integer unit because the instruction issued prior to this add is already stalled. So this instruction is also stalled, and the impact of stall is much more for a multi-cycle the operation. Now, how to pipeline this one? Now, these are the functional units that take a multiple number of clock cycles. So if I can pipeline these functional units, then at every clock cycle, a instruction can be issued. So let's look at how to pipeline the execution stage. Now, we'll define two terms. One is called the latency, the other is called the initiation interval. And latency is the number of intervening cycle between a instruction that produce a result and the one that uses it. So it says, it's like a producer and a consumer, and this is the instruction which produce the result, and this is the instruction is going to consume the result. Now, what will be the number of cycle between producer and the consumer? How many cycles it will take for the result to be available to the instruction that actually is required? The another is the initiation interval or the repeat interval. This is the number of cycles that must lapses between issuing two instructions the given type. If I had two instruction of the same type, then how many clock cycle there should lapse? How many clock cycles should be lapsed between the two instructions so that both can be issued? Suppose if you look at 8 clock cycle, there is only one functional unit for integer, and you had a two, let's say, two integer add instruction. Both two integer add instruction cannot be issued to the integer unit in the same clock cycle. Now this integer unit takes a one clock cycle, so that there is a lapse of one clock cycle. That means you issued this instruction after one clock cycle, you can issue the another one instruction. So it say it is a lapse of the clock cycle between the initiation of the two instruction. Now we want to pipeline this functional. We want to pipeline all these execution unit that takes a multiple number of the clock cycle, multiplier, adder, the floating point adder, and the divider, and we'll use the following latency and the initiation interval. The integer ALU has the latency of 0. When you say the latency of 0, it says the number of intervening cycle between an instruction that produces a result and one that uses it. So we know that so integer ALU, once a instruction produces a result, in the next clock cycle, the result can be used So it says the latency is 0. That means immediately in the next clock cycle you use. And the initiation interval we have taken to be 1. That means at every clock cycle you can issue an integer the instruction to the integer ALU. Now it says the load. The integer load and the floating point load has a latency of 1 clock cycle. Now we looked at one lecture. We said that a load instructions and any instruction that immediately follows the load instructions and that uses the result of the load instruction, the instruction has to be stalled. This is what we discussed, and by means of data forwarding also that stall cannot be eliminated. So if we had a load instructions and the next instructions that uses the result of the load, so you had a latency of 1. That means after 1 clock cycle you can use the result of the load, and the initiation interval is also 1, and say floating point add has a latency of 3. That means the result can be used only after the 3 clock cycle, and initiation interval of 1, floating point multiply. This is what it is assumed to pipeline the execution unit. You can have you can take a different latency and different initiation interval, so you'll have a completely altogether a different pipeline structure for the execution stage. The multiplier has a 6 and a initiation interval of 1, and the floating point divide is it takes a 20, latency of 24, and the initiation interval is 25. That means after the if you have issued an instructions, if you have issued a instruction to the divide functional unit, then the next instruction can be issued after 25 clock cycle. So it's the initiation interval is the 25. Now if I pipeline this pipeline the execution stage, then you using this latency and initiation interval for the different the functional unit, then the resulting structure of the pipeline looks like this. If you look at the floating point adder, now the floating point adder, it says the initiation interval is 3. That means if the result is produced only after the 3 clock cycle, it can be used. So if only 3 clock cycle that the use, but so the number of stages in the pipeline, it becomes a 4. Here it was initiation interval is 6, so the number of pipeline stages become the 7. And divide it's not pipeline, so divide is not pipeline. So there are 24 stages, but it's not pipeline, so the initiation interval is 25. That means you issued it, and on 25 clock cycle you can issue another instruction, and integer it takes only a 1 clock cycle, and the initiation interval is 0. So now if you look at this the pipeline, then the number of outstanding instructions in the floating point adder is 4. So you can have a 4 outstanding instruction in the floating. Now the next instruction that can use the result with here. This if there is another floating point adder here, this floating point adder, then then from this stage it can be sent to this one. So there's a 4 outstanding floating point instruction can remain in the pipeline. 7 outstanding multiplied instruction can remain in the pipeline. There are 7 stages, so each stage can have a 1 instructions at a different stage of the execution. And divide, it can have only 1 instructions. If a instruction is issued to the divide, then until it completes these executions, another instruction cannot be issued to this divide. So it has to wait for another 25 clock cycle to issue the next instruction. Now in this pipeline, suppose this is the structure of the pipeline, then let's look at how the instructions are executed in a pipeline, and we'll look at the instructions which are not the dependent. So let's look at a the pipeline. We have issued the multiplier, add, load, and the store. Now if it is a multiplier, so let's look at the multiplier has the 7 stages. So the instruction has to pass through all the 7 stages of the 7 phases in the execution stage for the completion. So it says fetch, decode, and pass through 7 execution stage, then memory and write back. Then next instruction decode, fetch, decode, and if you look at the execution stage itself, there are 4 stages: the memory and write back, the load has fetch, decode, execution, memory, and write back, and the store fetch, decode, execution, memory, and write back. So, and we do not, there is no dependency exists among this instruction. Now, if you look at, there are let's look at the problem here. Now, if I'll execute this instruction sequentially, then this instruction should have completed first. After that, add instruction. After that, the load instruction. After that, the store instruction. Now, let's look at putting these instructions in a pipeline where the execution stage a multiple number of clock cycle, and the add instruction complete first. Then load instructions, then the store instruction. Now add instruction here complete first. After that, the multiply instruction. So the right order has been changed. Now, if the right order is changed, and here we are looking at there is no dependency among this instruction, so there is no problem. But if write to the same register, and if there is a out of order completion, then there is a problem, and we need to handle the problems. Now, before we'll discuss about that problem, so there are 2 terms. Actually, there are 3 terms. We'll discuss these 3 terms in detail in while we discuss about the instruction level parallelism. But let me, because the three terms, that is raw, WAW, and WAR, these 3 terms I'll be using required for to explain the problem that will occur in a pipeline where there will be out of order completion. Now let's define these 3 terms. Consider 2 instructions I and J. Let's take 2 instruction I and J with instruction I preceding J in the program order. It says this is instruction I and this says instruction J. So consider 2 instruction I and J with instruction I preceding instruction J. Then there are 3 possible data hazards may take place. One is called the read after write, the other is called the write after write, and the third is called write after read. So there is one possibility also there, read. So while we discuss about the instruction level parallelism in detail, we will discuss in detail about this hazard, but let's understand these 3 terms. Now, what does the read after write say? Now, J, look at these 2 instructions. This is the program order. The order of the this is the order in which the instructions appears in the program. And read after write says J tries to read a source before I writes. So J is trying to read a source before I writes. Then the hazard that take place, we call it a read after write. Write after write, J, that means in a read after write, the instruction I is writing to some register R1, and instruction J is reading from some register R1. So J is trying to read the register R1 before instruction I write to the register R1. So we call it the read after write hazard. So write after write, J tries to write an operand before it is written by I. So both are writing. Instruction I is writing to the register R1. Instruction J is also writing to the register R1. But here instruction J is tries to write the register R1 before it is written by instruction I. Suppose instruction J writes the register R1. After that, the instruction I writes to the register R1. Then the value which should be contained in the register R1 is wrong. It should have been the instructions written by J, not by I. So you call such type of hazard is a write after write hazard. Then there is write after read. Write after J tries to write a destination before it is read by I. So let's say I had instruction I and J, and this is R1. So here is there is a J has a destination R1, I has a source as R1, and J tries destination R1 before it is by uh, read by I. So such type of hazard is called write after read hazard. So in the pipeline that we have considered, where the functional units takes a multiple number of clock cycle, you should also able to overcome such type of hazards. Now, different aspect to hazard. So let's look at the hazard and the forwarding in a longer latency pipeline. Here, longer latency pipeline where the execution takes take a more than one clock cycle. So how the hazard detection and forwarding takes place in a pipeline that has a longer latencies. The different aspect to the hazard detection, and there are different aspect to the hazard detection and forwarding for a longer latency the pipeline. So let's look at the first case. Now, if you look at our divide functional unit, so divide functional unit was not fully pipeline. Since the divide functional unit was not fully pipeline, then structural hazard can occur. Now, that means structural hazard can occur. So before issuing a instructions to the divide, it need to be checked whether there will be any structural hazard. If a structural hazard will take place, then we need to stall issuing the instruction. Second, because instructions have a varying number of times, because have a varying running times, the number of register write required in a cycle can be longer than one. So what he says that the instruction takes a multiple number of clock cycles, and some instructions take in the previous case is take a 24 clock cycles. Some instruction was taking 4 clock cycles, some was taking a 7 clock cycle, and some taking 1 clock cycle. So since the instructions are taking a multiple number of clock cycle, then there is a possibility that there can be more than one write to the register write in in the right in a write back. So in the number of register write can the possibly the number of register write can be more than one. So if there be more than one writes, then there has to be a mechanism to handle that one. Then the write after write hazards are possible since instruction no longer reach the write back stage in the order. So let's look at the instructions reaching in the write back stage. So if you look at in previous case, if you look at the previous case, the add instructions, the add the subtract instructions and the add instruction, they reach the write back stage in the different order. So the instructions can reach in a different order, and then the write after write hazards are possible. Now, if you look at the write after read, now if you look at there is another hazard called the write after read. Now in the 5-stage pipeline, the write after read hazard is not going to take place because the write after read hazard takes place that the instruction J writes before instruction I reads. In our case, all the readings are takes place in the all writing takes place in the write back step. So this is not possible. So write after read hazard is not possible since the register reads are always occur in the instruction decode stage. Instruction in complete out of order, then they are issued, causing a problem with the exception. So you issue the instructions out of order, then the exceptions may occur also out of order. So this is a there is a problem with the exceptions, and need to also handle the exception. The because of longer latency operation, stall for row hazard will be more frequent. Now it says if a stalls occur, then the stall due to this row hazard, due to the data dependency, then it might be more frequent. So the how to overcome this stall due to the row hazard. Now let's take this this sequence of instruction execution and see the stall due to the row hazard. Now let's look at the these instructions. This is the sequence of instructions that when you put in a pipeline, and how this instruction will be executed in the given pipeline. So this is I had a load instruction, then multiply instruction, add instruction, and store instruction. So let's look at how the load instruction executes. Now the if you look at the load and store uses the integer unit. This is what the load, store, and integer ALU operations all are computed in the integer unit, and the integer unit takes only one clock cycle. So you fetch, so the memory location, fetch, decode, compute the memory, access the memory, and write back to the register. Now let's look at between load and the multiply. Look at if there is a dependency between this load instruction. So instruction, this is my instruction I and this is my instruction J. The instruction J is reading the register F4 before it is written by instruction I. So there is a row hazard, and the row hazard can be eliminated, or it can be overcome by means of a mechanism called the data forwarding that we have installed. But let's look at in our pipeline what is the impact of this row hazard. Now you fetch, then decode. Now fetch, decode. Now when this load will be available, the load will be available only after the end of the memory stage. So at the end of the memory stage, so it will be written back into the pipeline register between the memory and the write back stage. And the multiplied instructions need the value of the register F4 at the beginning of the clock cycle, but it is available only at the end of the clock cycle. So there is a stall here. Now let's look at the add instruction. The add instruction. So here also there is a dependency. There is a row hazard between the multiply instruction and add instruction. There is a dependency here. Now this is stall. So the add instruction is also stall. So at the end or at the beginning of the clock, at the end of the clock cycle 4 or at beginning of the clock cycle 5, the value of F4 is available. So by means of data forwarding, it can be sent to the first stage of the first stage for the execution stage of the multiply instruction. So the multiply take a 5 phases. So it is sent to the M1, then proceeds M1, M2, M3, and the data is available. So the operand is available. They can proceed. Now let's look at what is going to happen to the add instruction. Now the add instructions depend on the result of the floating point instruction. Sorry, F0. But when the F0 will be produced, the F0 will be produced only in the clock cycle 11. In the 11th clock cycle, it will be produced. So at the end of the 11th clock cycle, it will produce, and at the begin of the clock cycle 12, it is available in the pipeline register between M1 and the memory. So it will remain stall for this number of clock cycles. Then by means of data forwarding, it goes to the A1 of the ALU, the floating point ALU. So this is takes 4 stage: A1, A2, A3, A4, memory, and write back. Look at the store instruction is fetched in clock cycle 5 because this previous instruction was stalled for 7 cycle. So this will also stall for 7 cycle. Then it decode, execute. Now let's look at, there is a data dependency between add and the store. So store, it stores the value of F2 into the memory location whose address is computed by adding R2 plus the content of the register R2 plus the offset 0, and it reads F2 and add is going to write the value of F2. So there is a data dependency between add and subtract instructions. So there is a row hazard. And when it will be available? It will be available, the F2 will be available only in the 15th, at the end of the 15th clock cycle. So at the end of the 15th clock cycle or at the beginning of the 16th clock cycle. So at the end of the at the end of the at the end of the 15th clock cycle, so it begin at the 16th clock cycle. So add instruction completes in the 17th clock cycle. Now, so at this stage, so there are 3 stalls here. So this is why there is a third stall here. This is available here. This is available. This could have been a forwarding, but why there is a third stall here? There is one more stall. Can anyone say the reason for this?
The structural hazard like
used by
memory.
Right.
the
So if
previous
I'll
system.
put a memory here, so if I'll put a memory here, okay. So if I'll put a memory here, so the memory and memory, so there is a hazard. So this is being taken to the next cycle. Okay. Okay, so let's look at the so let's look at the problem of the write back stage. Now let's look at this sequence of instructions, and we have put a sequence of instructions, and this says there is a this is a floating. Look at this moment you find it's F0, F1, F says that the instruction is a floating point, the floating point instructions, and if it is a write and R, then it is an integer instruction. So here it says F0, here it says F. So this is a floating point multiplier, this is a floating point addition, this is a floating point load. So this is how you differentiate between a point and the integer. Integers, the register will be specified by R, and for floating point, the register will be specified by F. Now let's look at the problem here. The problem, we say that the instruction can take a multiple number of clock cycles, and the number of clock cycle it takes to execute are different. So more than one instructions may try to write in the same clock cycle. Let's look at in clock cycle 11. In the clock cycle 11, there are 3 instructions. There are 3 instructions are executing in clock cycle 11. Sorry, the 3 instructions want to write into the clock cycle 11. So how is it possible? When there are multiple instructions want to write, then there has to be some mechanism to order the writes, and we know that the writing should also take place exactly in the same way, in the same order when you execute the equation, when you execute the instruction the sequentially. So if I'll execute the instruction sequentially, the write of this should take place first, then this, then this, then this. Sorry, write of this should take flush, then followed by write of this. It should be in the same sequence. So there are multiple writes. Now let's look at, there is one more problem. Look at in clock cycle 10. So in this figure, in clock cycle 10, there is no problem. All of them are writing to the in the clock cycle 10, the floating point multiplier is in the memory stage. Add is also in the memory stage. The load is also in the memory stage, but it is not a problem. So why it is not a problem? Now, if you look at the last line here, all these are in the memory stage in clock cycle 10, but only the load is actually uses the memory, so there is no structural hazard exist. So now this is in the memory, this is in the memory state, this is in the memories. That means two instructions cannot use the same functional unit at the same time. If two instructions are using the same functional unit at the same time, then you can say that a structural hazard exists. Now here, if you look at the multiplier instruction is not using the memory unit. It's not using the memory unit. And add instruction is also not using the memory unit. But the load instruction is only using the memory unit. So there is no structural hazard exists in clock cycle 10. So you can show it as a memory. In the pipeline diagram, it can be shown as a memory, memory, and the memory. Now, if I'll go back slightly to my previous one, can this diagram be that means modified? There is I put a stall here just to show the how the stall is going to generate. Now here, load instructions is not using in clock cycle in 16. So here this was shown to indicate that all instructions should will complete in the same, the instruction that was generated fast will complete fast. So here it says that in clock cycle 16, the add instruction in the memory state, but it's not using the memory. Add does not uses the memory. The store instructions actually uses the memory. So if you put it in the memory, if instead of stall here, if you put in the memory and there is a mechanism to handle this, then there will be no stall here. There is no hazard. So there will be no structural hazard between the add instruction and the store instruction, because add does not uses the functional unit memory, store uses the functional unit memory. So no hazard is going to take place. So if you write here memory, then there has to be a write back here. Both will be write back. Two write backs here. So there has to be a mechanism to handle if there are multiple write back in a same clock cycle. So let's discuss how to prevent a multiple write backs. Now, to handle the multiple write backs, so you look at in the instruction decode stage. So track the use of write port in the instruction decode stage, install a instruction before it issues. Now it says if there are multiple instructions that we are going to write in the same clock cycle. Suppose in the instruction decode stage, you checks that if this instruction is going to write in the same clock cycle as any previously issued instruction. If this instruction is going to write in the same clock cycle as a previously issued instruction, then there exists a structural hazard, both of them writing to the same port. So you stall the instruction. Then how to detect, how to check that whether two instructions is going to write into the same register, going to write into the register file in the same clock cycle. So you can use a shift register. A shift register can be used to indicate when an issued instruction will use the register file. So if an instruction that is used, if an instruction which is already issued, then it can be indicated in a shift register when that instruction is going to write into the register file. And before issuing an instruction, you check the shift register whether the instruction that is going to be issued uh, is going to conflict for write with the any previously issued instruction. If a conflict takes place, then you stall that instruction. The instruction in the instruction decode stage is stalled for a cycle if it needs to use the register file at the same time as the instruction already issued. That means if an instruction is already issued, and if the instruction in the ID stage it will conflict with a previously issued instruction for write to the register file, then you delay the issuing of the instruction by 1 clock cycle. So you can prevent the structural hazard. Now, this is one way you can do. So preventing to the write back stage can be done by one thing that you decode at the you check at the instruction decode stage for a conflict for register write. Then if a conflict takes place, then you stall it. Stall the stop issuing the instruction. Second way of doing it, stall a conflicting instruction when it tries to enter the memory or write back stage. So it says that you allow the execution of the instruction, but when the instruction tries to enter into the memory and write back stage, then you stall it. Now here, checking for the conflict is easy. So if you the instruction in the memory stage, you check whether it is conflicting with any of the instructions. So it is very easy. But the problem is stalling the instruction. If you are stalling the instruction, that means there are already the instructions in the execution stage. There will be many instructions in the execution stage, and if an instruction is stalled, then rest of the instructions is has to stall. There is to be a back propagation of this information in the pipeline. So here the complex the checking is easy, but here the problem is the stalling the rest of the entire pipeline, which are the different stages of the execution. So it is usually what is done is that you check at the instruction decode stage and do not issue the instruction if there is a exists a structural hazard with a previously issued instruction. Now assume that assume that the pipeline does all hazard detection in the instruction. That means it checks for all possible type of hazard during the instruction decode stage. Then there are 3 checks that must be performed before a instruction can issue. So assuming all hazard detection takes place at the instruction decode stage, then it checks for 3 possible type of hazards before an instruction can be issued. He says first you check for a structural hazard. Now wait until the required functional unit is not busy, and make sure the register write port is available when it will be needed. We say that before issuing an instruction, you check that the functional unit is available, and before issuing an instruction also you check that the write port is available. That means again you are checking for a structural hazard for register write. Then next you check for the row hazard. Now when the row hazard takes place, row hazard is actually the data hazard. So wait until the source register are not listed a pending instruction in a pipeline register that will not be available when the instruction needs the result. So let me try to slightly explain this one. Now what he says, so when a row hazard, let's look at when a row hazard is going to take place. Row hazard takes place. So this writes, this reads, so there is a flow of data, so there is a row hazard. Now in this case, the instruction J needs the value of R1. When it needs the value of R1, when it goes into the execution stage. So if there is a multiple phases in the execution, so it must be available to the very first phase of the execution. Now it checks wait until the source register are not listed as a pending instruction in the pipeline register. Let's take a add instructions, and let's take a, let me go back. So let me explain this one. Now let's take a this instruction. Let's take an add instruction. So there has to be a one pipeline register between this add, there is a one pipeline register. Between this and M1, a pipeline register. Between ID and A1, there is a pipeline register. Between ID and device, there is another pipeline register. So there are different pipeline registers, and between these two stages there are the pipeline registers. So I'll take only with the add instruction. So there is a pipeline register here, there is a pipeline register here, there is a pipeline register here. Now, suppose there is a instructions, there is a floating point add instructions. There is a, let's say this is a floating point add instructions, and it needs the result of another floating point add instruction. In the floating point adder at some phases of execution in the execution stage, and there is another floating point add instruction. This needs the result of this instruction which is already in the execution, and until that result is available, this instruction cannot the proceed. Now what it does, that it checks until that instruction is not listed. So it says that until it says that the result is available. So until this floating point register says that the result is available, this instruction cannot proceed into the pipeline. And when this will be available, this will be available at the end of this cycle. At the end of this cycle, this instruction is available. So when it is available, this can be passed to this fast stage. So this instruction can be issued and data can be forwarded. This is what is written here. Says wait until the source register are not listed as a pending destination in a pipeline register, that will not be available when this instruction is the result. And third, you check for the write after write hazard. Now checks if any previous instruction has the same register destination as the present one. If so, stall until that instruction enter the memory. So what he says, you check for a write after write hazard, and if a write after write hazard exists, then you stall that instruction until that instruction enters the memory stage. So this is how in a multi-stage the pipeline, the multi-cycle pipeline, how the hazards can be prevented by checking in the checking all for all possible hazard in the instruction decode stage. So we'll not go more detail into this some of the pipeline, the case studies of the pipeline. That will take more time. For the next class, we'll discuss on the instruction level parallelism in detail. So there is another 5 minutes left. If you have any doubt, you can ask.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
So in today's class, you were talking about a mechanism when that mechanism can handle if two memory requirements are needed in one cycle. Sir, is that
Right.
mechanism resource naming or any other
No,
such
no, no,
mechanism exists?
no, 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 no. What we have analyzed, we have. Let me go back to the slide. Let's look at now. What we have, if you look at this is what this is all that are the memory. So simply you can say there is exist a structural hazard, right? But if you look at this
Yes, sir.
instruction, if you look at the multiplier instruction is not using the memory. So what happened to this one? The multiplier instruction, the multiplier instruction does not need a memory. Memory is a functional unit, right? Memory is one functional unit. It's not reading the memory.
Yes, sir.
It's not writing to the memory. So this functional unit is not used. So here 8 does not need a functional unit. Memory is another functional unit. It does not need a functional unit. So but load is writing to the memory, so it needs a functional memory functional unit. So here there is no hazard exists, no structural hazard exists here. So you can push it to the memory stage. So what exactly you are not doing any operation. You look at for multiplier instructions, no operation is done on the memory. So what from this pipeline register and there is another pipeline register. If it is a multiplier instruction, you move the information. So let me redraw here. This is a pipeline register. There is a pipeline. So this is a pipeline register between M7 and memory. This is a pipeline
Memory.
register between memory and write back, right? So for multiplied instruction, no memory operation to be done. So all the content of this pipeline register are copied from this to this. In this clock cycle, in 10th clock cycle, copied from here to here. From here also in the 10th clock cycle, copied from here to here. So it is done.
Okay, sir. Sir, another doubt, sir. If you have some time, can you please describe like memory and WB? WB in WB stage, we are just writing back the result into the required registers. And sir, can you be please describe what memory stage is doing? Like I had some confusion in it.
Memory stage is required only in two. So look at, we are talking about an architecture, load and store architecture, where it needs the memory for load instruction and store instruction. No other instruction needs the memory. But in a
Okay,
pipeline,
sir.
there has to be a stage for representation. If it is a load instruction, it uses the memory to read it from the memory. If it is store instruction, it write to the memory. So the memory is required only in the load and store instruction. Rest of the instruction, it does not need a memory. So the instruction, the
Okay,
result has
thank
to
you.
be forward from one pipeline register to the next pipeline register.
Okay, sir. Thanks a lot,
Okay.
sir.
So if you have no doubts, then
Excuse me, sir.
yeah, yes.
Yes, sir. Right after right hazard, when that right after right hazard occurred, because pipeline means executing the instruction sequentially. So
Let me say we'll discuss in detail about the three hazards that I said. Just because I want to explain something this pipeline and to wind up this class, this lecture that I've said. But we'll discuss about the write after write, write after read, and the row hazard, read after write. So all these hazards we'll discuss in detail when we discuss about instruction level parallelism.
okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sir, hello.
Yes.
Sir, sir, in yesterday's class, you were talking about exception handling, and there's some at some point you told like if we are using on pipeline processor, then at the end of the pipeline, like in WB stage, we are checking the status. Like if there is an exception happened in ID stage and EX stage,
Hmm.
then that exception, the first exception raised by the ID stage will be first handled, then the next instruction, then the next exception that is raised in the EX stage. So won't there be any stalls like after traversing to WB stage, then we have already lost 4 cycles, then we are going for checking any exception handled in previous stages?
So you're talking of insertion. Look at in that case, you are talking of instructions. Let's say in the write back stage, and it says that there is a exception has occurred in the instruction decode stage. There is a exception has occurred in the execution stage, and there will be exceptions also occur in the memory stage, right? So when it entered to the write
Yes, sir.
back stage, is looked for that there are three exceptions are there, and which exceptions will occur first in the pipeline. The one, the instruction decode stage will occur first. In fact, there is a possibility also in the instruction fetch stage also, right?
Yes, sir.
So let's say there is a instruction decode. Let's say there is a instruction decode stage, a exception has occurred. So the instruction Suppose it is executing instruction I. So there are instruction I plus 1 in the pipeline, instruction I plus 2 in the pipeline. Let's say instruction I plus 3 also in the pipeline. Now this when it handles the exception, it will handle this exception for the instruction decode state, and it will re-execute the instruction starting from instruction I. So instruction I will be fetched, I plus 1 will be fetched, I plus 2 will be fetched, I plus 3 in sequence. So it will execute. Now it will enter to the instruction decode stage. So the exception was handled. So there will be no more exception for the instruction decode. Now when it enters to the execution stage, again there will be an exception, because this exception was there in the previous also. So there will be possibly there will be another exception. So when it enters to the again to the write back stage, there will be again exception. Again it will go back, it will execute that in same instruction I. So the instruction in the execution stage, the exception is handled. Now there is an exception in the memory stage. So again it entered to the write back. So how many exceptions were there in the previous case? There were 3 exceptions. Second time there will be 2 exceptions. Third time there will be 1 exception. There will be only 1 exception memory stage. Again it will go, it will handle this exception. Again it will start executing all exceptions handled. So there will be no exception for instruction I, because all are being handled in sequence.
Yes, sir. So that is what I was asking. Like, by the time we're in WB stage, like by the number of cycles that has already been executed when we're in WB stage, after that, then we will again traverse to the stages that created the exception, right?
Yes, yes, the same instruction that causes an exception. So it will handle the exception for instruction I. Suppose I plus 1 is also generate an exception, but it will not handle the instruction for I plus 1, right? It will handle the instruction, the exception for instruction I. Then it will start executing the instruction I once again until all exceptions are cleared.
Okay, sir. And sir, by the time all exceptions are cleared for the instruction I, by that time all the instructions which are already in the pipeline stage, those instructions will also be stalled, right?
No, there is no stalling takes place during the exception. Look at, a stall takes place only when there is an hazard, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah, yes, sir.
exceptions and hazard are different. Exception is a unwanted situation that comes into the pipeline. We divide by zero, page fault, data fault, instruction fault. Those are exception. And stall
Yes, sir.
take
Sir,
place
I
when
meant to say ki those means the successing instructions will be delayed until
no,
each
no, no, no,
exception.
no, 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 no. No instruction will be delayed. All instruction for an exception, no stall is going to take place. This will, if an exception occurs, it writes into the exception vector. It goes to the next stage. In the next stage, it checks whether there is an exception. If an exception occurs, write into the exception vector and goes to the next stage. No stalling take place. Stalling takes place only when there is an hazard. Whether it is a data hazard, there is a control hazard, or there is a structural hazard. Hazard and exceptions are different.
Okay, okay, sir.
So it is almost 10. So you can leave the team and join for the next class.
Thank you, sir.